The story of the RMS Titanic begins in the early 20th century, a time when human engineering and ambition were reaching new heights. Built by the company Harland and Wolff in Belfast, the Titanic was designed to be the largest and most luxurious ship ever constructed. It was often described as unsinkable, a claim that reflected both confidence and overconfidence in modern technology. The ship featured grand staircases, lavish dining halls, and accommodations that ranged from opulent first-class suites to modest third-class cabins for immigrants seeking new lives in America. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic set sail from Southampton, England, beginning its maiden voyage toward New York City, carrying over 22,000 passengers and crew. As the Titanic journeyed across the North Atlantic Ocean, everything seemed calm and promising. Passengers enjoyed the elegance of the ship, unaware of the danger ahead. On the night of April 14, 1912, the ship received several warnings about icebergs in its path, but it continued at high speed. Close to midnight, a lookout spotted an iceberg directly ahead. Despite attempts to steer away, the massive ship struck the iceberg along its side. The collision caused a series of ruptures in the hull, allowing seawater to flood multiple compartments. Though the ship was designed with watertight sections, the damage was too extensive. The sinking of the Titanic unfolded over the next few hours in a scene of confusion and tragedy. Lifeboats were launched, but there were not enough for everyone on board, and many were not filled to capacity due to panic and poor communication. The ship gradually tilted as water filled its compartments. Around 2:20 a.m. on April 15, the Titanic broke apart and sank beneath the icy waters of the Atlantic. More than 1,500 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. The tragedy led to major changes in maritime safety laws, including requirements for enough lifeboats for all passengers and improved communication systems. For decades, the exact location of the Titanic remained a mystery. It wasn't until 1985 that a team led by oceanographer Robert Ballard discovered the wreck deep beneath the ocean's surface. The ship lies about 380 meters, 12,500 feet, below sea level, broken into two main sections and surrounded by debris. The discovery captured global attention and renewed interest in the ship's story. Today, the Titanic rests silently on the ocean floor, but it continues to fascinate people around the world. While ordinary tourists cannot visit it directly due to the extreme depth and pressure, specialized submersibles have carried scientists and explorers down to study the wreck. Expeditions have revealed haunting images of the ship's remains, rust-covered railings, scattered personal belongings, and rooms frozen in time. These visits are rare, expensive, and risky, requiring advanced technology. Over the years, many eerie and mysterious stories have been associated with the Titanic. Some people claim to have experienced strange coincidences or dreams connected to the disaster. Others speak of ghostly sightings, such as figures in period clothing or unexplained sounds linked to the ship. An expedition descended into the dark depths of the Atlantic Ocean to explore the wreck of the RMS Titanic. And at first everything seemed routine as their submersible approached the massive, silent remains of the ship resting on the ocean floor. As their lights swept across the broken bow, one of the crew noticed a faint, unnatural glow near the opening where the grand staircase once stood. But it disappeared so quickly that no one could explain it. Moments later, their radio crackled with a weak voice asking, "Is anyone there?" A sound that clearly did not come from inside the submersible. Confusion turned to fear when their camera briefly captured what looked like a man in an old-fashioned uniform standing on the deck of the wreck, staring directly at them before vanishing from view. The pilot tried to steer away, but the controls stopped responding, and the lights inside the vessel dimmed as the temperature suddenly dropped. Then, from somewhere outside in the crushing darkness, they began to hear soft violin music, like an orchestra playing a haunting melody that seemed to echo from the Titanic's final moments, growing louder until it surrounded them. At the same time, the radio filled with overlapping voices, whispers, cries, and desperate calls for help in different languages, until a single chilling message broke through clearly. "You shouldn't be here." The submersible went completely dark for several terrifying seconds, and when the systems finally restarted, the Titanic was no longer in sight, as if it had vanished, leaving them drifting alone in the deep ocean. When the crew later reviewed the footage on the surface, everything appeared normal except for one disturbing frame that showed the same figure again, now closer, with dozens of shadowy figures standing behind him, all of them silently watching. While these stories are often based on imagination or folklore rather than evidence, they add a layer of mystery to an already powerful historical event. Far below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, a deep-sea survey team descended toward the wreck of the RMS Titanic, hoping to capture new footage of areas rarely explored. As their submersible approached the ship's stern, their lights revealed twisted metal and scattered debris, but something felt different, too quiet, even for the deep sea. One of the crew noticed a perfectly intact door standing upright among the wreckage, which made no sense after so many years underwater. Drawn by curiosity, they moved closer, and their cameras focused on the door as it slowly creaked open on its own, releasing a cloud of dark sediment that spread like smoke. Inside was not darkness, but a dimly lit corridor, impossibly preserved, as if time had stopped. The crew stared in disbelief as the camera feed showed flickering wall lamps and polished floors untouched by decay. Then at the far end of the corridor, a figure appeared, a woman in an old dress, standing still, her face turned away. Without warning, she began to walk toward the camera, her movements slow and unnatural. The pilot tried to reverse, but the submersible wouldn't respond, as if something was holding it in place. The lights flickered, and suddenly more figures appeared behind her. Men, women, even children, emerging from doorways along the corridor, all walking forward in silence. The radio came alive with faint echoes of footsteps and distant voices, as though the ship itself had awakened. Then the woman stopped just inches from the camera and slowly lifted her head, revealing empty, shadowed eyes. At that exact moment, every screen in the sub went black. When power returned seconds later, the door was gone, the corridor had vanished, and only the broken wreck remained. The submersible was suddenly free to move again, and the crew fled the area without speaking. Later, when they reviewed the footage, the corridor and figures were nowhere to be seen. But the audio recording captured something unmistakable. Dozens of voices whispering in unison, repeating the same chilling words, "Stay with us." The Titanic remains not just a story of human ambition and tragedy, but also a symbol that continues to capture curiosity, emotion, and imagination even more than a century later. Maybe Titanic wreck also disappeared after some years, but the story of Titanic never disappear from our hearts. Because some stories never dies. The Titanic. A question for you. Was the sinking of the greatest ship of the times, Titanic, was just an accident because of carelessness, or was there any paranormal power that ate the Titanic?